Yo, what's up guys, hope you guys are doing good. So today we are going to see what if Naruto fell in love with Hanabi part 2. Hope you will enjoy this video, so before we start please like the video and subscribe to our channel and hit bell notification, it motivates me to upload more fanfics for my lovely audience. So let's get started. Konoha's delegates stood just there, as they've heard the emperor of the second Numenor Empire, a man that has built the biggest empire and nation this world has ever seen, in just 5 years' time. He was a man of legend, someone before whom they came to ask for his support and for him to lend his strength to them, so that Land of Fire could expand, for will of fire to take root in all of elemental nations. And after hearing that Naruto and his friends were actually in the empire, and have taken up the positions of power, hopes were lifted for Konoha, who had expected that they would help out their home, in hopes of returning there. Minato had believed that his own son, who would be ecstatic to see his real family alive and well, would be more than happy to assist him. Konoha has made grand plans of exploiting the empire for their own needs, forgetting that the rulers of the said empire may not be as gullible as easy to trick as they may think. They had thought that the emperor will be on their side instantly, helping the noble and just cause of Konoha, assisting the legendary Yellow Flash and 4th Hokage in his trials. They were wrong, for the man that now sat on the imperial throne, the man that had forged this land of kingdoms, principalities, tribes and nations, constantly warring with one another, into the mightiest and most powerful empire this man has known, he was a man that knew of Konoha and its deep-rooted and hidden agendas all too well. After all, he himself once was a part in their schemes and plots, one that was discarded having long served its purpose, forgotten forever, assumed to have completely expired beyond his original purpose. And even when Konoha had heard of him again, they believed that he would have forgotten and forgiven them, and would play a part in their grand plans, also that he could return back to Konoha, as Minato, his wife, children and everyone else thought. But Naruto Pendragon, adopted son of Uther Pendragon, titled Lightbringer, Emperor of Second Numenor Empire and Lion of the West, did not forget anything, and he forgiven nothing to Konoha. 10 years have passed since his exile, since he was simply thrown away like a trash, and now this same trash was the man these people came to ask for an alliance and help. And they thought that he would simply give it to them, like that. Well, they were in for quite a surprise, since Naruto was no longer that gullible loud idiot, but a man of great power, with greatest of responsibilities of making his empire prosper, protect its inhabitants and the kingdoms he is charged with defending. He was now the most powerful man in the world, and in all right, he could have simply expelled Konoha out of here, invaded their lands and destroyed the Hai no Kuni. Hell, his own Shadow Guard and Watchers, a special night elven organization, tasked with internal protection of the empire, could have destroyed Konoha within a matter of weeks. However, Naruto didn't do it, not because he was merciful, or because he had forgiven them, no. It was simply now beneath him, not even worthy of his attention and resources to spare, not when he had far more important issues and business to deal with, like with Westerosi kingdoms and their drunken king of 5 kingdoms, previous of 7 kingdoms, or the raiders from Iron Islands, that pillaged coastlines from Reach to Arati Plains, and not to mention the Ogre Empire in far southeast. Konoha and its problems weren't even worthy of a second thought to Naruto now. But now, with his own family, former friends, mentors and even the elders coming right here before him, now Naruto had time for them, and he actually reveled a little bit in this small fact, an acknowledgement of his importance, since it was Konoha itself that had come all the way here to seek his help. This brought a little warm satisfying feeling inside his heart, but he didn't allow it to fester any more than he already had. He needed to be reasonable, practical and think of every factor in these talks. After all, he was the emperor of Numenor Empire, and one that first put the well-being and successful prosperity of his empire before his own vengeance. But still, another small jolt of satisfaction came to him, as he observed the reaction these people. He has changed, completely and without looking back, having abandoned the ways of shinobi and embraced the way of a warrior and light, like his adopted father. He was taller than his blood father and Jiraiya, with more muscles than both of them combined and Guy would be jealous of. Whiskers and spikiness in hair were gone, as well as all of baby fat, but a couple of small scars were added up in their place, one over his left brow, and the other on his right jaw. He wore full plate armor and wielded an ancient and powerful elven sword of Charlemagne, gifted to him by the king of high elves. He was a military commander and powerful politician, shrewd and cunning, a diplomat when needed, and a warrior when must. He no longer was that loud-mouthed genin who wanted to be a Hokage, for now he was the emperor. Konoha's delegates and shinobi all were looking at Naruto with various looks and emotions, ranging from utter shock and confusion by Minato, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Shikamaru, Asuma and Kurenai, with hopes and tears by Kushina, and the most prominent, envy, anger, jealousy and hatred by Sasuke, Menma, Narumi, Ino, Sakura, elders, Danzo and daimyo's officials. All of them did not expect to see someone whom they saw as the failure and expired instrument now become the one before whom they were forced to prostrate themselves. Many found it unbearable, while some seemed to think in their deluded minds that this was even better, like one Minato, who spoke in a hopeful manner. Naruto, my son, how much you have grown. And Minato, having heard Naruto address him as father, was filled with hopes that he would be successful in swaying his emperor son on his side, but he was wrong. Minato Namikaze, in case your eyes fail you, allow me to remind you that you stand in a presence of His Imperial Majesty, a person in status and power far outclassing all of you here. Hanabi didn't miss an opportunity to remind Konoha of their place. Unless you and the rest of your entourage to be educated in court's etiquette and tact, then you shall remember your position here. His Imperial Majesty, though have addressed you as father, merely acknowledges already a well-known and commonly known fact, that you are his blood parent, nothing more and less. Lady Hanabi speaks true, though since we are merciful, we will forgive this minor mistake. After all, it is our first meeting in 25 years now. Naruto simply said in powerful and authoritarian manner, catching a look of small shock in Minato's eyes, as well as some others. Back then, I was but a newly born child, left by you and your wife here in Konoha, for a cold-hearted and practical purpose, one that I had completed, and was disposed of. Sochi, please, you have to. Kushina had tried to talk, but she was suddenly pulled down to the ground by adamantine chains, much like her own, only these were even of greater power than hers, forcing her to bend before Naruto, denying her to look him in the eye. Kushina Namikaze, you have been given a clear warning of how to address His Imperial Majesty. And considering how you and your husband have handled him, I believe that everyone here agrees with me when I say, that you and this man you call your husband do know to have the right to call him your son. Kushina had recognized the voice, as she looked up and saw a beautiful, younger version of her mother, with red eyes, crimson hair and dressed in vibrant red and golden fully closed dress, with chains extending from her arm. And as a matter of a fact, you and your children here have no right of being called Uzumaki. Kushina paled at a shock, while her son wasn't going to listen to that slighting of him and his family. Who the hell do you think you are? We're the true Uzumaki, and you are nothing more than. Menma was about to say his piece, but he was suddenly silenced when his frame hit the floor, hard, as the magical powers pulled him downwards, casted by a young girl, a near-perfect copy of the Uzumaki head. Shut your mouth, runt. You address Lady Kaoru Uzumaki Uchiha, Lady of Kai and Kyotai, leader of Uzumaki clan, chosen by her people and the official representative of Uzumaki and Uchiha in Numenor. Address her with a proper respect, and if you slight her, I will personally make you regret you ever raising your voice against my lady mother. She said with clear hatred and spite towards Menma and Kushina. Your daughter's fierce loyalty and desire to protect your honor are an impressive sight to behold, Lady Kaoru. Semiramis complimented them, motioning them to stop, before she turned her attention back to Konoha's delegates. Lord Hokage, for your sakes, restrain your family members and the rest of your entourage from any further accidents. We are willing to listen to what you have to say and give thought to it, but our patience and benevolence are not infinite. Another such act of insult, and the ones who incurred it will suffer, as will you personally. Semiramis, much like her imperial husband, wasn't going to let Konoha just act like they were in charge here. Oh, of course, your Imperial Majesty. I ask for your forgiveness, and there will be no further incidents. Minato quickly gathered his own composure, as did most of the others, save for Sasuke, Kiba and Sakura, who kept glaring at him. If there won't be any slights like that, then you are free to state your business to us in our court. I may have missed the beginning, but I believe that you have come here to ask for something. Naruto noted out, as his put his sword on his right side, holding by the tip of the hilt. So, what message did Fire Daimyo instruct you to carry here? Our Lord Daimyo has sent us with a proposition to your Imperial Majesty. Koharu decided to speak in Minato's place, with Naruto and everyone else carefully listening. Our daimyo wishes to establish strong diplomatic ties with your empire, so that both of our countries could prosper and grow stronger from one another. My empire has been growing strong and prosperous ever since it has been established 5 years ago, without any aid or help from your country. Naruto noted out to the elder. And so far its growth in prosperity and power has been quite successful, and I see no need to alter an already successful and proven growth pattern. Yes, your Imperial Majesty, that may be true, but I am sure you are aware of the inner strength that Hai no Kuni possesses. The will of fire, a legacy of the first Hokage and carried by all of shinobi of Konoha and its people. Minato reminded to Naruto, who merely cocked his eyebrow up. This will of fire has been the source of power to Konoha in its direst of moments and in its greatest victories. As once a shinobi yourself, your Imperial Majesty, you know the true strength of will of fire. Lord Hokage, the will of fire you speak of is a philosophical teaching, a spiritual guidance at its core, nothing more. Philosophy is good for mental and spiritual growth and is capable of uniting people, but here in the Empire, people believe not just in ideals, but in actions that make those ideals into a reality. Naruto stated with knowledge, with Minato stiffening at hearing his son say it like that. I will not debate on which philosophy or teaching is more worthy of following or not, that is a task for philosophers and scholars. Now, what is it that Fire Daimyo proposes exactly, aside from demonstrating our court your spiritual knowledge? And do please operate with physical and real objects, not spiritualistic ones. Our empire has its own ideological and mental values, values that we do not intend to change to any others, just because of your example. Semiramis noted out to them. If you wish to establish diplomatic ties without empire, do so through actions, not high and mighty words. Daimyos of Odo, Iwa and Kumo, for an example, have proven themselves as valuable and trustworthy economic and trading partners through their actions. Hai no Kuni and Konoha would want to learn from their example. Semiramis contained a wish to laugh at the look of insult upon Konoha shinobi's faces, while ambassadors and guests from said countries smirked at them. Our daimyo wishes for an embassy to be established in your empire, as to have an official representation of Hai no Kuni's interests in your court. Elder Homura spoke up now. He also proposes for an alliance to be made between your empire and Hai no Kuni, an economic and military in nature. In exchange of your fleet and armies supporting our daimyo, you will have access to Konoha's shinobi to hire as your guards, assassins and assistants in various situations. Along with that, we are willing to trade our knowledge of elemental natures, chakra and jutsu as well. There are also other propositions and some details that need to be fulfilled, but I am sure that a man of your status needs not to bother with the minor details. Counselor Homura, in my experience, it is such minor details, as you have called them, that later cause most trouble and prove to be far more detrimental than the entire treaty is worth. Naruto sternly replied to her, with steel in his voice. My husband and I will want to hear it all now, everything that you want to offer to us, as well as details surrounding them, no matter how minor they are. Empress added up with a demand. Unless you have something to hide from us, you should have no trouble revealing it all to us. And along with that, I believe that you also have a documented version of the proposition of your daimyo. If you have it, please give it to High Lord Gabriel Windrunner. Gabriel understood what was needed of him, so he left his position and went to the officials of daimyo, picking up the treaty and already beginning to read it, as he went back. After a good several minutes of reading it, confusion on Gabriel's face has changed into mild irritation and then into a hidden anger, traces of which appeared upon his face. When he was done reading it all, he handed it over to Hanabi, surprising Naruto and Semiramis, before he spoke up, while Konoha awaited the response from the Empire's highest authority here, already expecting a success. Forgive me, your Imperial Majesties, but I cannot present to you the terms of Konoha's treaty, without using strong and inappropriate words, especially in presence of noble ladies, Her Imperial Majesty, and my wife. Gabriel explained himself, with Naruto and Semiramis understanding that Konoha's proposition was far more of a demand, instead of a proposition of friendship and trade, while Windrunner turned to face them. Delegates of Konoha, what exactly were you hoping to accomplish with those terms? Did you think that just because our empire is young it can be easily swayed by someone like you into doing your bidding for essentially nothing? By the tone, Gabriel was completely infuriated, and for a good reason. Lady Hanabi, what is it that has infuriated Hand of the Emperor so much? What is written there? Semiramis asked of the head of diplomatic affairs, growing impatient herself with Naruto as well. Lady Hanabi quickly went through the document and, much like her close friend, was growing angrier with Konoha's proposal by the second. Once she was done, she let out a sharp and long exhale, a sign of her own anger and frustration, before she spoke to the imperial couple. Your Imperial Majesties, Haino Kuni's terms of proposal are as follow. Establishment of an embassy and constant diplomatic presence in Empire. Opening all of its ports to our merchant ships and lowering of taxation on our merchants and their goods. Ability to contract Konoha shinobi. Provision of knowledge on jutsu, chakra and elemental manipulations. An official military and economic alliance between our empire and Haino Kuni. Hanabi took a pause for a second, before continuing on. However, in exchange for these offerings, Konoha and Fire Daimyo demand abolishment of all and any connections to lands of Iwa, Kumo and Oto. Immediate closure of their embassies and banishment of their ambassadors and any and all members of their countries. Seizure of humanitarian help for said lands and their complete redirection to Haino Kuni to combat the effects of the Great Famine. 1/5 of our fleet is to be stationed in their territorial waters, for protection of their merchant and civilian fleet. 1/4 of our armed forces are to be deployed in elemental nations to guard its borders. Complete access to usage of our specialized forces, such as Shadow Guard, in Konoha's interests. Provision of our military and industrial technologies, as well as schematics and experts on building them. And immediate oath to assist Konoha and Haino Kuni in case they go to war, be they the defendant or the aggressor. Hanabi could see how her husband understood what had infuriated her and Gabriel so much. These are the terms that Konoha and Haino Kuni has given to us. Hanabi gave terms to her emperor and empress, with the court clearly hearing them all, and outrage broke out, as the court descended into fury and rage. Konoha's delegation suddenly found themselves as the objects of combined hatred and fury of the imperial court, as nobles of all races, ambassadors from elemental nations and other lands were scoffing and scowling at them. Minato and Kushina saw clear hatred and fury of the court at them, and did not understand what was so outrageous that they have proposed to them. These were the very same terms that Konoha had given to each and every other nation that had joined them, and even though some of them did refuse them, they eventually did see the power of Will of Fire and joined in. But here, imperial nobility, ambassadors and all others, they simply scoffed at them all and spoke out in outrage and fury towards them. It seemed like Empire wasn't intimidated and impressed by power of Konoha, but seemed to completely scoff at it and them as well. Naruto and Semiramis remained composed, but a single look at them revealed their own distress and inner anger. And all the while most of Konoha struggled to remain composed in the face of this outcry. Danzo already was making his move, as he subtly activated his Mangekyo Sharingan and was ready to secure this empire for Konoha. After all, if this young fool wasn't going to serve willingly to Konoha's best interests, he shall be made to do so through a little bit of persuasion. After all, if not for Konoha, for whom this empire's resources and vast armies were for? These fools. No, only for Konoha and none others. Having listened and allowed the outrageous cries continue for long enough, Naruto raised his blade for a little bit, before he sent it down back with the tip colliding with the white floor of the throne room. The sound, an instant near invisible wave of wind and power hushed the court and throne room fell silent. They knew that now Emperor and Empress have made their decision and will announce it, and now was the time for them to remain silent and patient. Naruto looked down at his parents, elders, Konoha shinobi and officials of daimyo, anger and fury barely visible upon his face. He had expected Konoha to be at least politely humble and subtle, but this. He had heard less outrageous terms from Robert Baratheon and his wife, when he invaded Reach Dorne. Naruto had faced many arrogant and ignorant rulers, counts, dukes and sovereigns, many of whom had demanded of him a lot of things, but to hear such things from Konoha and Hai no Kuni, at the first official diplomatic mission and meeting like that, it would seem they have completely lost all sense of fear and respect towards others. Well, time to remind these arrogant shinobi, that there are those, whom you must fear and respect. Lord Hokage, elders and ambassadors, I have but one question to ask of you. Who do you think you are? Naruto asked of them, his voice layer with steel, cold and unforgiving, but with core of anger present in it. Your Imperial Majesty, if you are confused, then we can. Jiraiya, thinking that his former apprentice didn't understand the meaning of this offer, made a single biggest mistake. Confused. Naruto roared at them, with the court and throne room unconsciously shaking in fear for a moment at the power of their emperor. You take me for a fool, Jiraiya of Toads. Or do you think that I am the same naive foolish loud-mouthed student you had toyed with 10 years ago? Do not try to appease or deceive me, I have been fooled far too many times to fall for such lies again, and be thankful that I had not ordered for your incarceration for these words. Now, answer the question, or I will have it pried out of your mouths by other means. The tone at which Naruto had said it made it crystal clear that he was deadly serious, while royal guards had put their hands upon their weapons, ready and waiting for the command. Your Imperial Majesty, our land is the strongest in elemental nations, with our shinobi and warriors being of greater quality and strength than all others. Minato took the word, speaking up with conviction. This treaty is the same one that we have granted to Suna, Kiri and many others, and they had accepted it, not to mention now are a part of our union. Your nation would greatly benefit from this alliance and benefit from it. In what way? Lowered trading taxes and opening more ports in your lands, or through learning what chakra and elemental natures are. Do not take me for a fool, Hokage. Naruto warned him with strength. Do you think that learning what we already know from Uchihas, Uzumaki and others is of any worth to us? Or that 6 new ports and lowered taxations will make up for the economic losses in severing the trade with 2 biggest importers of rich ores, metals and building materials on your continent? And do you think that we would ever commit a great portion of our fleets, armies and our specialized troops, just for your shinobi, who are 1,000 miles away from the closest port in my empire? Naruto roared at them in that last one, with even Semiramis flinching a little at this one, which was something rarely seen even by her own kin. Why, your Imperial Majesty, perhaps a more detailed and private explanation of RT terms would see clarify some. Minato had tried to play his hand on this one, to get a chance to personally talk to Naruto and explain everything to him, to get him see his way, but it was far too late. In public or in private, our answer will be the one and the same, Minato Namikaze. Naruto said with power, as he and his wife rose up from their seats and walked closer to the court. This empire, this nation was founded in flames of war, where rivers of blood flew on hundreds of battlefields and countless lives were lost on daily basis, all in the name of few and their greed, arrogance and lust for power. They would betray the lives of their men and women, friends and loyal retainers in a matter of seconds, just to gain momentary profit and small measure of questionable valuables. I have taken a sacred vow before you all, that I would make those days perish and to have this empire standing as a beacon of justice, loyalty and righteousness, where loyalty is rewarded, and traitors are sought and punished. Naruto looked at Sasuke, who was still seething with hatred, while most of Konoha trembled. And now, Daimyo of Hai no Kuni has sent you, Konoha shinobi, here, in hopes that I would make the same choice as all those other kings, lords and sovereigns before me. He believes that I would be willing to give up long-forged partnerships and friendships with more honest and honorable rulers, and that I would send sons and daughters of this empire just to die for a foreign ruler and his ambitions. Well, Konoha, you may return to your liege lord and inform him that Second Numenor Empire will never agree to the terms he has presented, not today, in 5, 10 or 100 years. We will never ally ourselves with the man that rewards traitors, and punishes those who are loyal and righteous to the cause. And for this insult, in assuming that we would reject our partners for him, by imperial decree, I order the complete withdrawal of Phoenix Trading Company and its assets from Hai no Kuni and their so-called allies. Naruto turned to the president of the Phoenix Company, a high elf with short black hair and dressed in black and red, and ambassadors from Northern Alliance. Lord Halen, Any and all monetary and physical losses during the withdrawal will be compensated from royal treasury. You have my word on that. I need no further guarantees, Your Imperial Majesty. Phoenix Trading Company shall withdraw our merchants, trading posts and all our assets within 3 weeks, as per your command. High Elf bowed before his Emperor and Empress. Ambassadors Lao, Kei and Yakushi, I remember the offer of expanding trading relations between our respectable nations, as well as opening a permanent trading office and representation of Phoenix Trading Company. We are open to further negotiations on this matter, so contact with Lady Hanabi and Lord Halen, so that we may discuss this matter in full details. Naruto saw how the ambassadors beamed with success and bowed before the Emperor and Empress. Naruto, what the hell are you doing? Jiraiya, having had enough, decided that it was enough time for the politeness, and decided to make it personal. You would so openly forsake your home in times of need, and ally yourself with them. Don't you know that they are allies and minions of Orochimaru, and you would openly help them like that? This is an outrage, you. Sir Arthur Dane, Sir Alaric Redsun, take this man, gag him and escort him out of here. Old Toad Sage clearly has forgotten his place and needs to be reminded of it, so please be kind as to introduce him to Lady Maiev Shadowsong and her watchers, as well as the cells. 2 days within those confines should teach this man and serve as an example to his companions for what will happen, if they decide to insult my husband and our family without care. Semiramis commanded to the royal guards, with a tall man with 2 swords and full armor and a high elf, dressed in paladin armor and with a war hammer of dwarven work, turned around and bowed the Empress, before heading towards the man. Jiraiya had tried to resist the arrest, even trying to fight against the 2 royal guards, but they weren't chosen of the Emperor and Empress without a reason. A single spell of light from Alaric, and Jiraiya found his knees failing him and falling onto the ground, as special shackles closed up on his wrists and he was dragged out of the room, with Konoha's shinobi looking at this with an outrage, but also fear. As Jiraiya was out of the room and the royal guards quickly rejoined them, Naruto spoke up again. Another outrageous act upon your part, delegates, and fate of your companion will be a mercy compared to the next punishment. Naruto promised them, you and your guards are restricted to the port quarter and you will be under constant monitoring of watchers and city guards. Should you try and leave, you will be escorted back. Try a second time and you will be escorted into the gallows. Force your way, and you will leave the port quarter in a coffin. You will leave Numenor City in 4 days, with the next ship heading for Hai no Kuni. Now, be gone, your audience is over. Naruto commanded to them. I believe you should reconsider this rash decision, Your Imperial Majesty. Danzo spoke in his usual manner, getting an eye contact with Naruto and using his Kotoamatsukami on him in that same instant. After all, you do care for the betterment of Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki, do you not? Danzo let out a small satisfied smile, knowing that this empire was as good as his now, with Naruto blinking a couple of times, as if something was in his eyes. Unfortunately for Danzo, he has greatly underestimated empire and its emperor, along with people that has surrounded himself with. While in Eastern continent, only select few could feel how a person casts a jutsu or genjutsu. In the West, magi, shinobi, watchers and many others have developed several supplementary techniques that allowed to sense out the casting of a spell, jutsu or a visual genjutsu of the highest caliber. What is on the east a hidden genjutsu technique, was like a thundering monastery bell for all of royal guards, noble lords and ladies, hidden watchers and shadow guards, along with emperor and empress, and their bodyguards. Royal guards immediately drew out their weapons, as the city guards in the throne room also took up the positions for a battle, shielding the court. Neji and Tenten instantly were at Empress' and Emperor's sides, with Gabriel and Verisa already drawing out their weapons. Semiramis instantly understood what befell her husband and dispelled the genjutsu the second she sensed it, much to Danzo's shock, while all of Konoha was oblivious and didn't understand what was going on. Naruto, the second he felt the genjutsu lifted off him, looked in concerned eyes of Hanabi and Semiramis, nodding to his empress, signifying that he was well now. The next second, Naruto's furious voice thundered through the halls of palace. You insolent mongrels! You dare not only to insult me and my entire empire with this treaty, but you have the gall to use a genjutsu upon me to bend me to your will! Exclamation mark. Watchers, seize all of Konoha's delegates, have them shackled and thrown into the twilight cells. The next instant the entire delegation of Konoha was surrounded by high and night elves, dressed in black armor, covering their body and faces, with black cloaks coming to the floor from their shoulder plates, already proceeding to shackle and seize shinobi of Konoha and its ambassadors. And have this war hawk and Sasuke Uchiha interrogated and searched with extreme prejudice, spare no expense or method to get to the truth of this matter. Inform Lady Maev and Anko Mitarashi that they have full carte blanche on this. Danzo was struggling with the two night elves when they restrained him, but once shackles were placed on him and all of chakra was blocked off him. His bandages were ripped out from his covered eye and his arm, along with restraints on it, revealing the full arm of Sharingans, with face of Hashirama on the shoulder of his artificial arm, and a Sharingan in his right eye socket. Minato and the rest of Konoha looked at Danzo with utter shock and bewilderment, while Sasuke was seething with anger and rage and was trying to get out of the hold of watchers and kill Danzo. Cord looked at Danzo with utter disgust and did not even hide it, with sneers, snarls and clear fury upon him and the rest of Konoha. Naruto and Semiramis merely looked at them with fury and contempt, as she motioned to take them away, with Danzo shouting out in outrage that all he did was for Konoha, which sounded as cries of a defeated beast. Unfortunately for everyone, the moment the shackles have closed up on Sakura's wrists, the spell put on her by Hanabi had been dispelled by the effects of the shackles. And the moment that spell was lifted, Sakura shouted out loud. Naruto, you ungrateful bastard. You should have long been dead, and this place belongs to Sasuke-kun by his right of an elite, and you'll be kissing my feet before I bash your skull into nothing. This Empress, Hanabi, all of those bitches will service him, only a shame that ugly fat bitch Hinata was dumb enough to die because a worthless demon like you and, Sakura shouted out, as she was being dragged out of the throne room, until. Wait. Thundering voice of Naruto stopped the watchers and everyone in their track. Bring her here. Naruto commanded slowly and with power, with the watchers knowing who he wanted to see, and they dragged Sakura right before his feet, past the royal guards and put her on her knees before him, as Naruto's face and eyes, filled with utter fury, anger and rage, locked on the now shaking Pinkett. None dare to insult the imperial family, threaten them, and most importantly, no one dares to insult the memory of my beloved and get away from it without being punished. Naruto said with cold, barely contained fury, as he looked in the eyes of the watchers and gave a command. Cut her tongue out of her mouth and cauterize the wound without an anesthetic. Make her watch the interrogation of her beloved Sasuke Uchiha, and after that, make sure that neither her foul mouth, nor her hands are capable of spewing dirt upon others. Sakura paled as she heard her sentence, with one of the watchers promptly gauging her and getting her out of the place, with the rest of the lot. All of court and throne room fell silent for a moment, and none dared to speak against the emperor and his order. They knew that it was cruel, unethical even, but he was fully in his right, and it was not just a sentence for a foul-mouthed woman, no. This was a message, clear as crystal diamond and more powerful than simple words. Naruto was a ruler, a powerful emperor, and one that really did good for his people, having once made Eriador great again, greater than ever before. However, while his heart is kind and intentions are benevolent towards his friends and subjects, to those that seek to undermine his people, exploit his kindness and smirch his and Numenor's name with dirt, he'll be vengeful and merciless. And to those that dare to insult the memory of his beloved wife, a woman revered by people as nothing short of a saint, someone who had given to the unification of this land more than anyone, including her life. Even to this day, after over 5 years now, Naruto still could not forget his beloved Hinata, nor forgive himself for not being there with her. He will forever feel that way, until the day that he reunited with her in the next life or the afterlife. But until that day comes, no one will smirch his wife's name with dirt, nor will anyone dare to use his empire in their own interests. He will not send men and women to die in the others' wars, not for Westerosi lords, nor will he do so for his former home. Especially not his former home. Imperial Palace's dungeons. Twilight Cells section. Several hours later. The Twilight Cells were exactly what they sounded like, embodying the endless void of darkness, so thick and strong, that not even drops of water could get through. Cells made of the black rock, with ebonite-like metal being the material of the cells. Some of the more daring shinobi tried to break out of the cell through either force, or with the lock picks, but to no avail or success, since the Twilight cells are designed not just to house prisoners, but to prevent their escape by the means of engineering and magic combined, magic that only watchers patrolling the area knew here. And nothing escaped the gazes of those men and women, for they were trained to even see with their eyes closed. It has been a couple of hours, and so far, the watchers already took Sasuke, Danzo, Might Guy, Sakura, Koharu and Homura. With Might Guy, Koharu and Homura returned, but returned in a state that left the prisoners more than a little scared. They seemed hollow, utterly empty. With not as much of physical damage done as they expected, but it was clear that whatever methods watchers employed, it was more than enough to break even Might Guy, for his form shook with every sudden wisp of rare wind, or crack of a torch. His eyes were filled with dread and utter fear, but his lips were shut, yet it was clear he was broken, and not just once. The Namikaze family was put in a single cell, not much to their surprise, or maybe it was one grace that Naruto would show to them. The cell was clearly made for several prisoners, so there was enough space for them all, but there was no way for them to speak with the other shinobi of Konoha. Letting out a sigh, Kushina spoke up, starting the long-awaited talk. Naruto, not like this I had thought our reunion would come, if it ever were to be. I had believed like Tsunade that he was still alive, but like this, Minato, what have we done to him? Kushina shook her head, putting it in her hands, weeping. My son, our baby boy, how could we even think about doing such a thing and be okay with it? Kushina cried out at her husband, who didn't even flinch a little. You know as well as I do, Kushina, that this was the best thing for us all to do. It was either that, or we would risk all of our children being targeted by not just Madara, but also by Kumo and Iwa, and not to mention the influence of Kyuubi over them. Minato reminded to his wife and kids what needed to be done, and he still stood by his decision. What do you think would have been better? Having all of our children suffering for our mistake, or be able to raise two of them to be what they were destined to be, in happiness and safety, while the other one were to drive away from us and them all the threats. You and I made that decision and there is no reversing it now. The other one, Minato, that damned bloody decision that you think I made, was made by you, Jiraiya and that cursed Hiruzen Sarutobi, not me. I was in a damned coma after the childbirth and extraction of Kyuubi, not mention battling Madara. Have you forgotten how you told me that my Naruto had died during the attack, that he took the soul of the Kyuubi with him? Exclamation mark quote. Kushina shouted in outrage at her husband. You knew, that damned frog and that fucking Hokage, all of you knew, that I would never have allowed you to abandon my son, whom I didn't even hold in my hands. You fucking lied to me, and only 14 fucking years later did I find out the truth about my Sochi. You stole away from me my child, our child. And all for fucking what? To protect our children from Madara, Iwa and all others. You were a fucking yellow flash of Konoha, for crying out loud, the man that had killed thousands of shinobi in mere hours. And Konoha is filled with powerful shinobi, all of whom together had stopped the Kyuubi. No, you didn't sacrifice our son just to protect Menma and Narumi. No, I know why you did it, Minato. You know nothing, Kushina. I did it for the betterment of us in Konoha. Minato defended himself before his wife. Oh for fucking hell, shut up about your betterment of Konoha for a fucking minute. You threw away our son, because you didn't see our son in Naruto anymore. Kushina accused him, with Minato shutting up at this one. You think I never saw that look on your face, when Kyuubi was raging inside of me, that look of fear, mixed with hatred. Oh, I remember it very well, Minato, so well, that just before I fell into coma, the last thing I saw was the very same look of yours, casted right at our baby. And it was far more intense and avid. You didn't see Naruto there, you saw Kyuubi instead of him, that's why you threw him away, didn't you? Minato didn't say a thing, as he continued thinking over this situation and trying to find a way out, as well as not daring to face his wife and the truth. And while their parents were in debates of their own, Narumi and Menma were exchanging words of their own. Damn that Naruto. Who the hell does he think he is? Throwing us like some common criminals into these cells, he should have been glad to finally see his real family, like a failure he is, and sign that damn treaty for all our sakes. Doesn't he understand that Konoha is the only true empire that deserves to rule? Menma asked no one in particular, with Narumi replying. Well, be I on his place, I wouldn't think twice about executing Danzo, and that son of a bitch Sasuke with that whore, Narumi grumbled with anger, as a small chuckle escaped her lips. I so bloody hope that he and that whore suffer, serves that bastard right. Narumi grumbled lowly. Aren't you supposed to be a loyal and loving wife to Sasuke, like you and Sakura usually do? Menma was surprised when he heard his sister speak like that. What? Is being Mrs. Uchiha isn't as good as you had hoped? Is he what? Not giving you enough attention and you resort to vibrators, or you and Sakura? Menma was about to continue, but a quick slam in the jaw silenced him for good, with Narumi looking at him with hatred. You better shut up, little brother, before I do those tormentors' job on you for them. Narumi hissed at him, with blazing hatred in her eyes. You think that being married is all sunshine and happiness? For you, maybe, but for me, I curse the very fucking days I landed my eyes on him and when Dad announced our marriage. And on our wedding night, and every bloody night after that, remember when Ino told me that you had hit her and I nearly killed for that? Menma nodded to this one. You were lucky it was an accident, because if you hit her on purpose, and more than once. Wait, you mean Sasuke is beating you? Like, on the regular and during. Especially during it, that is the only way he can do it, often with that cursed mark turned on, and Sakura, that whore, revels in it and even helps him. And it's not just beating, oh no, that bastard has done a lot to me, and when I was finally pregnant with our child, not even that had stopped him. Menma and Kushina, who had also finally took time off of shouting at her husband, paled at the revelation, with Narumi turning to her parents. You think it's cause I'm clumsy, that I'm always in bruises and cuts? Or is that I lost my son on my 6th month because of miscarriage 5 years ago? Oh no, it was that fucking son of a bitch, your son-in-law that did it all, father. And what did you tell me, when I told you about it? You told me to simply endure and make Sasuke happy, you fucking knew what he did to me, and you didn't fucking bothered even to straighten him up. You, my own fucking father, you just took that bastard's word for truth and left me to his mercy. Narumi's eyes were already watered, as she broke down, with her mother already at her side and calming her, before she casted a powerful glare at Minato. Minato, first Naruto, then Narumi, when we get out of her, if those watchers don't kill that bastard and you, I will fucking do it. You sold our own daughter to a maniac, all so that you could secure Uchihas for Konoha. But what about our daughter, the one you oh so desperately had tried to protect? Kushina snarled at him, with Minato remaining impassive. Sasuke had promised to me to stop his attitude, and he has, as far as I know. And our daughter had always had a wild imagination, which still hasn't stopped, Minato defended himself, before Narumi shouted at him. That fucking bastard had punched me in the gut, when I was fucking pregnant with my son. And all because he was fucking frustrated with how council doesn't respect his authority. Narumi shouted at him. I was 6 months through already. Do you even fucking care if I live or not, as long as that fucker is loyal to Konoha or not? Wow, I always knew that you were rotten inside, but to this extent, a new voice came in, with all the participants turning their heads to see none other than Anko Mitarashi, dressed in an outfit of a warden herself, with all the armor and cloak, but without a helmet, with her hair now longer and made into a long ponytail, looking at them all, in specific at Narumi. Don't worry girl, that sick fucker and his personal cheering whore are really suffering right, so much so that they wish they could just die. You that Tokubetsu Jonin, partner of Ibiki Morino and Orochimaru's former apprentice, Mitarashi Anko. Minato recognized her, with Anko smirking at Hokage. Did my son also buy you for his own, like he did with Hyuga and some others, when you disappeared? Bought me. I was fucking happy to get out of that hellhole, as were all the others, after you returned. Anko countered. His Imperial Majesty had offered me a pretty title, lands and enough money for life, but I refused, and after I heard of Watchers and what they do, I just couldn't resist joining in. I mean, who wouldn't? High payment, premium equipment, top of the class training, insurance that covers everything, from death at tooth infection to sudden destruction of your house by a goblin rocket, and on top it all off, a chance to learn from the Night Elf Watchers the true art of torturing. Did you know that them lot had been doing what I love to do for 10,000 years straight? Wicked, But fuck if I wasn't on that train the moment I saw what my now chief does on daily basis. Needless to say, I proved to be one damn enthusiastic and successful watcher-interrogator. Anko, I know that things weren't all well for you in Konoha, but if you just managed to get my son a message from me, Minato wanted to sway Anko on his side, but it proven to be useless. Sorry there, Lord Suck a Dick Cage, but not only is my payment here way higher than in Konoha, but here, they got lots of real friends and a good life, and His Imperial Majesty did everything to get that cursed mark off me and helped with rehabilitation. He is like a little brother, so caring and reliable. Anko smiled kindly, before her smile turned into a wicked one. Alright ladies, time to grab on the new meat. Get me mother-daughter duo out of here, the red-eyed ravenet with those nice legs and great rack, bearded asshole with a smoke in his mouth, pine-assed lazy bun and that perverted virgin with a boner for frogs. Watchers went to the cells, opening them up and dragging the needed people out of them. And careful with that frog boner, he is a legit super pervert, and will do anything to get a panty shot. Not to mention his sadomasochistic tendencies, considering how much women in Konoha beat his ass in hot springs and he still came back, several times a day at times. Then it is probably a good thing Mistress Maev orders us to wear all this armor and cloak, Mistress Anko. Her aide replied to it, with Anko nodding to this, putting back her helmet. Yeah, it certainly is. Plus it's damn comfy in here as well. Good thing she cares for her subordinates wearing a comfortable uniform. Alright ladies, bring the abused girl in nice rack into 12th cabinet and the rest in 13th cabinet. Anko ordered out, as they went ahead towards the places, with Kushina tugging Anko and stopping her. Please, Anko, I beg you, don't hurt my daughter. I'll take whatever punishment she was ordered to. Anko simply pushed Kushina's hand away and motioned them to move, while she went to the 12th cabinet with Narumi and Kurenai, closing behind her. And nobody even was able to see a dim light, coming from the smallest space between the door and floor. Imperial Gardens. Meanwhile, Gardens of Hinata. This was to be Naruto's present to his first love on their 5th anniversary together, something that Hinata had always wanted to have in their palace. A place, filled with life, flowers and untainted beauty, where she and Naruto could find solitude, to spend time together just for themselves, away from the prying eyes and important matters. A place, where time and matters would not touch them, where Hinata would bring their daughter to play with, their little Himawari. If only Hinata had not answered the call of House of Latrua, she and Himawari would enjoy this place, the gift that Naruto had been preparing for his wife and daughter. But in the end, Hinata never saw this small marvel, this small private world that Naruto had prepared for her. Instead, Naruto and Semiramis with her dragons have made a new garden elsewhere, a garden of ashes and fire, as some call it, right where his beloved had lost her life, and their daughter had lost her mother. Nowadays, Naruto would come in this place in need of finding privacy and to be with his own thoughts, to think of things and remember what had happened. Along with that, he would let the hardened and strong facade of the emperor fall for a little bit and reveal a person, scarred and changed by wars, campaigns, still mourning the loss of his beloved, and happily spending every moment with his children here, along with his wives in a moment of peace. Now was not such moment, for Naruto and Semiramis were waiting for their guests to arrive. And so they did, as a small portal opened up, and from it walked out Kurenai, Narumi and Anko. Naruto let outside a small smile, as he spoke up. Sorry for the little delay and that little spectacle, but it is hardly the time for them to know of our little bond. Naruto smiled to them, with Narumi and Kurenai smiling back to him. Plus Konoha really did piss me off with all this. I'll say, I thought that you were going to kill Minato right there in the spot. Narumi commented with a chuckle. And thanks for getting me out of the cell for a bit. It was starting to get really tense in there. Any time, little sister. Naruto said with care and love to his dear little sister, before bringing her in the embrace, warm and caring. I missed you, Narumi. I missed you too, big brother. Narumi allowed her own facade to fall down and her true nature came out, as she answered to her brother's embrace with her own, with tears of happiness falling down having reunited with her beloved sibling.